Are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion, Megan. Wait till you see this lawsuit. It's all going to be based on evidence. It's not going to be just a lawsuit. It's going to be the kind of lawsuit that is full of evidence, admissions, documents, which prove exactly what she did, because actually Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, was planting stories negative to Justin. And all Justin wanted to do, and it's all through the text messages. If the New York Times apparently reviewed 1,000 or more pages of text messages, they would have seen it. Justin never wanted to hurt her, never wanted to be negative to her. He wanted to protect the film, he wanted to protect himself, and he wanted to protect her from making negative allegations about him that were made up and that are proven in this case.
Blake Lively found herself utterly caught off guard on live television when Bryan Freedman unleashed a comment that not only surprised, but practically left her in a state of stunned silence. It wasn't the kind of moment where her trademark grace and wit could instantly diffuse the situation. Instead, the unexpected remark transformed the air into something resembling a surreal pause in an otherwise ordinary day.
They worked with the New York Times. Her publicist worked directly with the New York Times. They shared illegally obtained text messages. They shared those together. They concocted a complaint that they filed with the Civil Rights Division. They omitted texts that would have provided context, texts that were in the exact same string that would have provided context of what was really going on. And in fact, they actually removed emojis from texts that show that there was satire and there was joking around by the PR crisis agents. I mean, the PR crisis agent.
Observers noted that her usual sparkle seemed to falter, replaced by a look that mingled disbelief with a trace of ironic amusement. In a realm where every quip is scrutinized and every reaction dissected, this fleeting silence said more than any rehearsed comeback might have. As the cameras rolled and the live audience absorbed every second, it became clear that even the polished Blake Lively wasn't immune to the unpredictable twists of on-air banter. Who knew that one comment could leave a Hollywood icon momentarily, if only ever so dramatically, speechless?
Okay, so this is an excerpt from my new favorite book, which is the website that Justin Baldoni published, all about his correspondence with Blake Lively. And this is one of my favorite excerpts with my new favorite Game of Thrones character, Blake Lively. Are you ready for it? And him serving it back to her is just as important. You don't usually see both the man and the woman with such agency and humor. Anyway, I can act it out for you next week to make sure it comes through. Or I can send it now. Let me know what you prefer. XX. To which Justin Baldoni responded, sorry, I was just crying my eyes out as kids and family just left for another 5 weeks and it was a shit show. Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji.
On what was meant to be a routine live broadcast, the stage was set for the unexpected. Bryan Freedman, known for his offhand remarks and a penchant for stirring the pot, decided that this particular evening was his moment to shine with a comment that was as audacious as it was unfiltered. In a scene that could only be described as a collision of spontaneity and celebrity, Bryan leaned into the microphone with a grin that suggested he was about to drop a truth bomb. His words sliced through the ambient chatter of the studio like a hot knife through butter, leaving no time for pretension. With his signature nonchalance, he remarked on a topic that hit a little too close to home for Blake, a topic that many had whispered about behind closed doors, but had never been so boldly thrust into the glaring spotlight of live television.
Bryan Freedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, has just shot back at Blake Lively's motion to dismiss. Blake is abusing the legal system. 3 exclamation points. Bryan Freedman tells TMZ Miss Lively's recent motion to dismiss herself from the self-concocted disaster.
The comment itself was an unexpected twist in a conversation that had until then maintained a veneer of polite banter. Bryan casually mentioned something that, on paper, might have sounded trivial, but his tone, so devilishly smug and delightfully irreverent, turned it into a statement loaded with implications. In that split second, as the words reverberated through the studio, the camera found Blake Lively. Her reaction was immediate and unmistakable, an expression that seemed to say, "Really? You can't be serious." Her eyes widened just enough to betray the fact that she wasn't merely processing the information, she was actively battling the urge to retort with a biting comeback. For a moment, the glitzy veneer of Hollywood was peeled back to reveal a raw and human response, one that even the most experienced celebrity could hardly anticipate.
How she bullied her way through the process to take over the movie and used her PR people to try and destroy Justin. There's a number of different defendants here. Stephanie Jones will be all over this complaint. That is the PR agent who was supposed to be working for Justin Baldoni. Leslie Sloan, who's another PR agent who will be part of this lawsuit. That was Blake Lively's. Blake Lively will be sued, and we're carefully considering other people that will be sued also. Ryan Reynolds, for sure.
Bryan, reveling in the power of his own spontaneity, continued to prod the situation further. His every word dripped with a self-assuredness that made it impossible to ignore. It wasn't long before the studio's atmosphere shifted from casual chatter to a charged, almost electric tension. The audience, a mix of industry insiders and die-hard fans, sat at the edge of their seats, each wondering what the fallout of this unscripted moment might be. Some spectators smirked at the irony of the situation. After all, it's not every day that a Hollywood darling like Blake Lively is rendered momentarily mute by an offhand remark. Others, however, watched with bated breath, fully aware that this was the kind of moment that would be dissected by tabloids, social media, and late-night comedians for weeks to come.
Bryan Freedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, has just shot back at Blake Lively's motion to dismiss. Blake is abusing the legal system. 3 exclamation points. Bryan Freedman tells TMZ Ms. Lively's recent motion to dismiss herself from the self-concocted disaster she initiated is one of the most abhorrent examples of abusing our legal system. Freedman says stringent rules are put into place to protect the innocent and allow individuals to rightfully defend themselves, while noting laws are not meant to be twisted and curated by privileged elites to fit their own personal agenda. In his statement to TMZ, Freedman reiterated, as we said yesterday in response to Mr. Reynolds' same cowardly measures, we will continue to hold Ms. Lively accountable for her actions of pure malice, which include falsely accusing my clients of harassment and retaliation. Freedman summed it up by saying Blake's fantastical claims will be swiftly debunked as discovery moves forward, easily disproved with actual evidentiary proof.
Behind the scenes, the production team scrambled to maintain a semblance of order. Directors exchanged knowing glances, and producers hurriedly whispered instructions into earpieces, each aware that they were witnessing a turning point in live television history. The initial shock on Blake's face was quickly masked by a practiced smile, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile that said, "I see what you did there, and I'm not entirely amused." Her internal monologue, if one could eavesdrop on it, might well have been a litany of sarcastic retorts and witty one-liners, each designed to deflect the uncomfortable spotlight that had suddenly been shone on her. Yet, in that moment, the art of the retort was lost in translation, replaced by a silence that spoke volumes.
Baldoni's the bad guy. And just to lay it out for the audience in a little bit more detail, what she's claiming is that even though she was a much bigger star than Justin Baldoni, who I never heard of before this lawsuit, she's the much bigger star, and she's married to an even bigger star than she is, Ryan Reynolds, that she came in and onto this project and started to get harassed and mistreated by Justin and some others, and that when she then demanded that all of her concerns be rectified, that he did it, but that he was basically lying in wait for when the film would get released in case she went public with what happened, that he and his PR team determined to bury her, to ruin her, and that this wave of bad press we did see about Blake Lively when the film came out this past summer was not organic. It was totally orchestrated by Justin and his team, and they've gotten their hands on a bunch of texts.
The conversation meandered on as if the incident had been nothing more than a minor hiccup in an otherwise smooth exchange. Bryan, ever the provocateur, peppered the discussion with additional remarks that built on his initial jab, each one more pointed than the last. His tone remained light and conversational, as if he were merely engaging in harmless banter with an old friend. But beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of mischief, a clear intention to unbalance the carefully constructed public image of one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. Blake's responses, when they came, were measured and cool, betraying nothing of the inner turmoil that the comment had sparked. Instead, she responded with the kind of polished, almost rehearsed retorts that celebrities are forced to deliver under the unforgiving gaze of live TV.
Baldoni's the bad guy. And just to lay it out for the audience in a little bit more detail, what she's claiming is that even though she was a much bigger star than Justin Baldoni, who I never heard of before this lawsuit, she's the much bigger star, and she's married to an even bigger star than she is, Ryan Reynolds, that she came in and onto this project and started to get harassed and mistreated by Justin and some others, and that when she then demanded that all of her concerns be rectified, that he did it, but that he was basically lying in wait for when the film would get released in case she went public with what happened, that he and his PR team determined to bury her, to ruin her, and that this wave of bad press we did see about Blake Lively when the film came out this past summer was not organic. It was totally orchestrated by Justin and his team, and they've gotten their hands on a bunch of texts.
As the segment wore on, the narrative took on a life of its own. Observers noted that every time Bryan's words echoed through the studio, there was a subtle shift in the energy, a collective intake of breath, a pause in laughter, a moment of collective realization that they were witnessing something truly unique. It wasn't just the content of the remark that had everyone talking, it was the way it was delivered. In a medium where every word is scrutinized and every expression magnified, even the slightest misstep can become a moment of historical significance. And on this day, that misstep was none other than Bryan Freedman's brazen comment that left Blake momentarily disarmed.
Blake Lively writes, "I can send you my pass at the roof, or just read with you when we get together next week. Let me know what you prefer, smiley face. If you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of just how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. It's my love language, spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth."
Despite the undercurrent of tension, the show pressed on with its meticulously planned segments. The host, ever the consummate professional, did his best to steer the conversation away from the incident, injecting humor and light-hearted commentary in an attempt to restore balance. Yet, the damage was done. The studio audience, now buzzing with whispers and speculative glances, was acutely aware of the unspoken drama that had just unfolded. Social media erupted in real time, with fans and critics alike offering their own sardonic interpretations of the incident. Tweets and posts flooded in, each one dissecting the event with a mixture of amusement, outrage, and incredulity. Memes were born within minutes, immortalizing the moment when a single comment turned an ordinary broadcast into a spectacle of unintentional brilliance.
Baldoni, because he treated me well and did nothing wrong, and I allowed him to sit in a basement with his family because I was starstruck by Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that Blake Lively was the aggressor in this now epic showdown. Was it right after was it when Baldoni dropped the countersuit? Was it when Bryan Freedman put up the website with the 170 pages and all the text? Or was it right away when the Times wrote?
Right away. I've always had an intuition about her, and I've always had an intuition about Taylor Swift and like the branding of the nice girl stuff. And something just didn't, I went through Justin Baldoni's Instagram and he just seemed like a puppy. And I read, it just didn't add up to me that this guy was is secretly just dying to talk about pornography all the time and talk about his porn addiction and wanted her to look at pornography. I'm going, this is not the Instagram feed I'm looking through. And I went back years.
In the days that followed, the incident became fodder for endless commentary. Talk shows, podcasts, and online forums all took a keen interest in the interplay between Bryan's brazen words and Blake's unexpected silence. Analysts debated whether the comment was a calculated move or merely an offhand slip of the tongue, a spontaneous moment of candor in an industry where every word is carefully curated. Some argued that Bryan's remark was a deliberate provocation, a way to disrupt the polished veneer of celebrity culture and expose the vulnerabilities lurking beneath. Others maintained that it was simply a case of miscommunication, blown out of proportion by an audience eager for scandal. Regardless of the interpretation, one thing was clear: the moment had left an indelible mark on the landscape of live television.
So it was monstrous what she did, and she's got to pay for it.
As the weeks passed, industry insiders speculated on the potential repercussions. Some insiders claimed that the incident might force publicists to rethink how they coach their clients for live interviews, emphasizing the need for rapid-fire comebacks and unflappable poise. Others mused that it could spark a new wave of on-air spontaneity, with hosts and guests alike feeling emboldened to stray from the script. Meanwhile, late-night hosts revealed in the material, weaving the incident into monologues with a delicious blend of sarcasm and schadenfreude. It seemed that every mention of the event only added to its mystique, transforming what could have been a forgotten moment into a cultural touchstone for those who appreciate the delicious irony of live television mishaps.
I think Ryan Reynolds has a few secrets in the closet too that they don't want people to be taking a look at, and it's going to destroy these people. That's why they wanted this attorney's eyes only privilege. And basically we can say anything. The public can't see it, just the attorneys. It was kind of a radical thing to want. And they were arguing that, careers could be ruined. Well, what could be ruined? You might be a little embarrassed, but to ruin a career, there has to be some level of fraud in terms of how you're presenting yourself to the public and who you are in private. And so that kind of a desperate sort of a pleading, which was to do something that was abnormal and file for this attorney eyes only, which they didn't give them. He kind of half-weighed it and said, according to medical records, which is self-explanatory. But that lets me know that they're scared, and they're not going to admit that until they lose the dismissals. And then I think they're going to want to settle.
The episode became a case study in the delicate balance between candor and decorum. Bryan Freedman's comment, delivered with a smirk and a wink, managed to disrupt not only the flow of the conversation, but also the carefully constructed image of one of Hollywood's brightest stars. And while Blake Lively's silence might have been fleeting, its impact was anything but. For those who witnessed it, the moment encapsulated the inherent unpredictability of live television, a reminder that beneath every polished facade lies the potential for unscripted brilliance, or at the very least, a healthy dose of unexpected irony. There was no grand resolution that evening, just a series of glances, muted chuckles, and the undeniable understanding that sometimes the best moments on live TV are the ones that no one saw coming. In retrospect, the incident has come to be celebrated as much for its humor as for its audacity.